What's up, guys? It's Coach P. I'm here at elitefts. We are going to be making a video today on all the different floss bands, how to use them, and then we're also going to use some wraps and show you guys a knee wrap tutorial. All right, so we're going to start out with a big blue elitefts floss band. I got my nice, beautiful male model J here. We are going to start out with the shoulder. We'll work down the arm, elbow, wrist, and then we're going to show you guys how to wrap, how to floss wrap, and then what the benefits are, and then we'll kind of go into a little nuance here. We're going to start with his shoulder. So let me get tape off here. Go ahead and grab that rack for me. So this one, a little tricky, especially on big meaty guys like this, okay? So what we do is actually open up like this. There you go, so we can see a little bit more. So I'm going to kind of cross the shoulder joint, kind of try to catch that trap. And then it's just like a knee wrap, get a good stretch there. We're gonna go here. And then you'll see what happens if I try to wrap straight, that delt kind of pushes that over, right? So I'm gonna kind of X across here. I'm gonna go down. You and your partner will have to develop a safe word in case I wrap this too tight. So I wrap down the arm and then I'm gonna come back up to the shoulder, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to, there's a bunch of cool stuff happening here, so I'll just leave that. And then we'll tie this off. Bunch of cool stuff happening, so let that arm kind of just dangle real quick so I can explain some stuff. So what we have here is, it's awesome, right? So the floss bands provide compression at the shoulder joint, which is awesome. We have a little bit of tack and stretch going on. So raise your arm up above your head. This usually starts to stretch out a lot of this stuff in the armpit. A lot of fine-tuned muscles in there that tie into the pec, the bicep, the delt, all kinds of stuff, bring them back down. So what's cool about this is we get a little bit of a tack and stretch type of a thing going on here where the compression of the band will kind of push on that outer layer of tissue, and then we can glide the tissues underneath to start getting some relief. Usually what we'll do here is kind of just old gym class shoulder circles. So his shoulders don't seem to be too banged up, but this is one of the best ones at relieving some of your shoulder pain. Real easy to throw in. These fit right in your bag. You can throw them in a warm-up. Shoulders feeling a little bit messed up. This is always going to be a good place to start because we can start to loosen up these tissues. So let's say we built up a couple of rounds here and then we just pop this off. Unravel that guy if you can. This one's about 150 feet long, so it takes a second. And then theoretically we should feel some relief. A lot of blood flow. Oh, that's another benefit too. We get some blood flow occlusion, so then when we pop this wrap off, we get a nice influx of blood to the area, make your shoulder feel good. What's really great about this, 3 different sizes. This is the red one, floss band. We're gonna use this one on the elbow. They can kind of scale to the joint. So shoulder, big, meaty muscle. We can use the medium sized one for the elbow, and there's another smaller black version we can use for the wrist. We're gonna incorporate 2 things here. This was kind of, popularized / invented by Donnie Thompson. We're gonna floss wrap the elbow, and then we're gonna use the band for a little bit of resistance. We're gonna push that tricep in there. Really good at clearing up some of that elbow mess that everybody gets into, where your elbow feels like it's in a vice, or you have some forearm pain, or you have trouble supinating that arm. So same type of thing here. Tag it here, pull tight. We're gonna wrap around. I kind of recommend going about halfway on, 2/3 of the way on that next one. We're rolling here. You wanna get above and below the joint so then we can start to free up all the connective tissue on each side of that joint. So we'll get here, one more. And then we pull it through. Again, you'll be able to scale the tightness up as you get used to it. We're gonna throw his arm through there. I push my barbell tight to this J hook here. And then all he's gonna do is we're just gonna start cranking that elbow into maximal extension. So what you wanna do, so I wanna see you go all the way through into there. There we go. So what we're doing here is when we get to the end range, we're getting some compression deep in the joint, or some decompression deep in the joint, and then that floss band is giving us all of the blood flow occlusion, the tack and stretch. And then we want him to drive into that terminal elbow extension. That way we're kind of telling the arm, hey, it's okay to function all the way through that range of motion, nice and safe. So same thing, I would say 10, 20 reps. All right, so hop out of there, and then we'll pop this band off. And then we should get a nice, good amount of blood flow to that elbow joint. And we should be able to see an increased range of motion for our pronation, our supination, and that elbow extension. This is the smallest version Floss band, the black one, kind of keeping in with our theme, big, medium, small. We're gonna wrap the wrist joint, same thing here. We're gonna put a lot of tension around that wrist joint. It's gonna provide a little bit of distraction, a little gapping in that wrist. It's a lot of fine-tuned bones in there, a lot of nerves. Anybody that's been in the game for a long time knows that from gripping barbells, this gets pretty jammed up. You might have some grip issues or some pain in the wrist. So what we're gonna do is same type of thing. We're gonna compress and floss band this wrist, and then we are just gonna kind of put him through some range of motion. So hold that hand out here. So what I do is I'll start right on the wrist joint, and it's almost kind of like wrapping your hands as a boxer. I go up a little bit. Each time I pass this wrist joint, I kind of crank that a little bit tighter, and then I'm just trying to dissipate again above and below the joint, just so I can compress some tissues that connect into that joint. We can go here. You can even get fancy if you have a messed up thumb like I do. You can wrap that whole thumb in there if you need to. We'll go here, and then so what we do is we'll lock that down right here, and then I kind of have him do just what he's doing. So close the hand, and then we're just going to roll through some wrist range of motion. Let's say we get about 20 reps, something like that there, and then open the hand. Open the hand. Is that okay? There you go. All right, now all the way, same thing. Wrist range of motion, good. Now make sure he's doing a real good job about freezing that forearm. Easy way to do it, just put your arm on a bench so you can't move. You can even grab a dumbbell, start doing some wrist extension. Every range of motion here is gonna benefit. Same thing, give it 20, 30 reps, something like that. Go for maybe 30 seconds, then pop her off. A real good way to start, if you don't know or have the knowledge base to assess what's going on at a deep level, then we can kind of start here, and then you're gonna be in a pretty good spot to get warmed up to get under a bench or a squat or a deadlift. We're gonna get into a knee wrap tutorial. This is deep secrets of the iron here, so save this one, watch it many times. We're gonna go through a bunch of different wraps. We're gonna explain a lot of nuance with this one. We're gonna explain different patterns of wraps, and then we're also gonna go into how those match and exacerbate or inhibit the biomechanics of a lifter. To put that in more layman's terms, it would be certain squat patterns, knees cave in, round the upper back, all that stuff. We can have a knee wrap that will fit that lifter a lot better. So I'm gonna show you guys just kind of a normal beginner straight wrap with our Elite FTS knee wraps right here. So big thing, toe up, flexing the knee. Now, biggest thing we see from the beginning population is they wrap down here halfway on their calf, and then by the time it's time to squat, their foot goes numb and they can't do anything. So what I recommend is you can poke around, you'll find that bony process right there just below the kneecap, or we can look at that adductor insertion there and we can kind of hook that, okay? So what I'll do, pin it with my thumb. I'm pushing up on the kneecap a little bit. When I go, big pull down, pull it over, make sure we keep tension the whole way, okay? So this one, we want to provide spring with no gaps here, okay? Now, when we're transitioning lifters from what would be a knee sleeve into wraps, it's better to start with a straight cast wrap, we call it, which is just straight revolutions around. So when we're doing this, you kind of aim, you'll notice a lot of the other knee wraps, the old crates from Elite FTS, have those lines on them. This one just estimates center, crossing over. I'm pulling a little bit of tension. Now, with the tension, you have to learn how to scale it, right? So if you go too tight, it's gonna kill you. You won't be able to hit your depth. So we're just kind of doing a medium here on him. We go under, pull your slack out. So for him, big, tall, beefy guy, we'll go about 4 up. Make sure we're covering everything. And then we'll just come right back down. If we were wrapping tighter, we could probably get this all the way back up and do 2 revolutions, which would be akin to just a really heavy sleeve. Go ahead, I got it. We're gonna go here, go around, keep your hand under, and then we fish it through, or your guy will pull it for you. And then we give him a big crank, and that's a real basic knee wrap. We tie off on the side here. We don't have a lot of material behind the knee or too much material in front of the knee, so it's not gonna kick you around. As you get more advanced, we're gonna be, I'll unwrap this while I talk so you don't die. As you get more advanced, you're gonna be able to handle more pressure in front or behind the knee. All right, so I dusted these off out of my personal collection here. They got a lot of years in them. These were from maybe 10 years ago. They had skulls on them, and I was really into skulls at the time. So these are broken in, which is gonna kind of show us what a broken in knee wrap can do. And then also we're gonna kind of show you guys the different patterns here, okay? So the intro one was our straight wrap. I'm gonna show you guys Xing and explain all the concepts behind this. Now, we went straight around the knee. When we start to create X's, it stretches the material closer to end range, so it blocks you and or gives you more rebound when you're doing your knee wraps, okay? What's very cool about this is we can start to use those X's strategically around the knee to help him with his form, okay? So the first one, we're just gonna say that he was maybe doing his 4th powerlifting meet, and we wanna just increase that squat a little bit, so we're gonna give him a little more pop relative to that first straight wrap up, okay? So same thing, I'm blocking this here and slash him. It's not gonna allow him to move his leg. It's locking his knee out. Start here where this attaches, or right at the bottom of the kneecap. And so what we start to do is when we wanna get more slack out of the wrap, we're just gonna pull harder for one, and then I'm gonna show you guys a trade secret here. We're gonna roll under, and then when I get to here, if I wanna be real mean to him, I can use my knuckles and roll and pull. Same time, crank up like this, keep that tension, okay? So now I'm just gonna go up the knee. About 4 for him. I'd wanna kind of cover a little bit more of that quad, so I'd go 5. We have the room to do so because this is a nice old broken in knee wrap. Now what I do, this would be kind of an intermediate. We're gonna look for this kneecap and we're gonna make an X over that kneecap, okay? So start up high, 1/2 of the X, down around. Now notice I'm staying off this calf, okay? This is back of the knee, top of the calf. I pull this up, I've just created an X. We bring her around, bring her around, up and through, and then we crank that tight. So now, as he's descending in the squat, he's got an X in front of that kneecap. As we go down, we're gonna start to push into that wrap and rebound. And that's gonna add a little bit more to what you can squat. But the X is also block, okay? So this is where we'll get into the mechanics of the whole thing, okay? So let's say Jay here, let's pop this off while we're talking. Let's say he had trouble in his squat rounding his upper back, okay? What's going to happen inevitably is the coach and the lifter are gonna start putting X's in front of their knee. And what that's gonna do is it's going to exacerbate his poor mechanics in his squat. For instance, as he goes down, because these X's block, they also rebound, but you have to learn how to use them. So again, intermediate lifter will say, we're coming down. I wanna track my knee over my toe to about here, but the wrap blocks me here. And let's say this lifter already had trouble keeping their upper back tight. I'm gonna go down, they're gonna hit the X, their butt's gonna shoot back, and then they're gonna round forward and they're gonna miss their squat. So in this instance, I'm gonna show you guys how to strategically place an X to help with that, okay? So this one, I kind of imagine just this being a 4x4 post, right? Front, side, side, back. This one for him, we want to get good rebound. So instead of Xing in front of the knee, we're going to X behind the knee. We can also accomplish this by layering material up behind the knee as well. So same thing, wrap. 1, 2. You can also just keep it rolled up. I don't like that, but preference, whatever your hands can do. So we go 5 up. Now how I X, I'm just gonna start from this point. I'm gonna create 1 X behind the knee. Down here, right? I'm never going past that starting point. I come across just under the kneecap, and then I'm coming back up to this corner, and I've just X behind the knee. And then we can take this, roll through, pull tight. So this this knee wrap pattern is going to allow him to track his knee over his toe where he wants to, but we're also gonna bind up material behind the knee to bounce off of and hit that PR squat. More mechanics with the wraps, okay? So this one, We've all seen people do this here, come up out of the squat, knees cave in, okay? So again, our X's will provide blocking power. And then also, a stiffer wrap blocks more, a lighter wrap will rebound and stretch more. With the new technology of today, with the advancements in how much rubber is in the wrap, as you break them in, you can kind of get a little bit of both out of those. So you guys will have to mess with that. What we're gonna do, knees cave in, I wanna put an X on the inside of the knee. So going along with my theme of treating this leg like it's 4x4 post. So we're gonna X inside the knee at the bottom line of this kneecap here. That way, when they go to cave their knees in, that X will help stop them and allow them, it will help them push their knees out, okay? So, same thing for the big guy here. We're gonna go 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then what we'll do, I'll wrap around. I'm gonna start my X from this corner of my 4x4, 1/2 of my X, right here on that meaty part right before that adductor attaches. I come straight around the knee, come back up, and now I've just provided an X to aid in our technique. Come around, wrap up. Now this one you see I kind of pulled up on that X. If we were really cranking it, we'd have 1 extra revolution just to bring it around and tie off. Tie it off real tight. Go ahead and pop that off. Show them kind of how to get out of there nice and easy. Pulls it out, coming off there. Last iteration of this is going to show you guys how to lengthen or shrink the wrap, kind of based on lifter preference slash what gives you the most pop out of your wraps. So what we tend to see in our equipped lifters is we're spreading that wrap out a lot. As we were speaking before, it helps kind of transition us into the knee wraps nice and easy from our brief, so we don't get kicked around or abruptly hit the knee wrap and move us out of our groove. The raw guys tend to have a faster descent, and so they rely more on rebound instead of blocking. So we tend to start to see them shrink the wrap. I'll show you what that looks like. We can get into the X's a little bit with this, but because it's such a shrunken wrap, you kind of overlap a lot of material. Usually the name of the game for this is building material behind the knee, because our raw squatters have a larger degree of an angle at the shin, so they have more knee over toe. So what we're looking at here is, so I was going 5 up. So let's say we were doing a classic raw meet, and we just got to get the most out of our wrap. So what I would start doing is I would crank it. I'd start rolling in. We'd pull all of our slack out. I'd do that each time. And so for a big guy like this, it's about 3, which will cover that whole knee and be nice and safe and give you that rebound. For a lot of the lifters, we can shrink it in even to 2. And then what I'll start to do is kind of scale it. So this one, if we just do a shrunken wrap, just kind of casted, we would just keep layering it, going around, and then we tie it off, okay? We can also go back and get into the same types of things with our X's. So we got 3 up, I could X in front of the knee. We could layer it up and do a double X. This is pretty hardcore. We get into a 3rd X and then tie that sucker off right there. We can get into coming back and Xing up and behind the knee. So now this lifter has a lot more built up material. And then what we usually do is we have a gap like that. We'll just use that as our tie off point, and we're good to go. And that's a lot more stiff than spreading that sucker out. All right, so we're gonna kind of do a little recap of the knee wrap tutorial. Jay's gonna kind of tell you how each one felt, the differences that he noticed.
Yeah, so with the crosses, first of all, it's definitely really noticeable as far as your knee travel. You could feel if you crossed on the inside, the wrap would be pushing my knee back out, which is what you want. Same thing with the typical that we do if you cross at the kneecap. If your squat pattern is pretty good, you definitely get a lot of rebound out of that. What I really liked was the classic raw, like shortening and lengthening the wrap.
Yeah.
With the crosses behind, I really felt a ton of rebound, almost like a stiff knee sleeve, and that was something new to me, so it was really interesting to see.
No, that's good. That's a good point too, because you can make those distinctions. And then if that's how it feels, and let's say you were a guy that squatted in a really stiff knee sleeve, that would be a good transition for you if you wanted to get something that feels similar but gives you a little bit more pop. One thing about this is you're going to want to break in your knee wraps. So when you first get them, especially if you're getting into the really gnarly stiff ones, you can grab a mono post or a beam in your basement or an upright on any rack, and then you can just crank these around them and wrap them, pull them tight, tie it off, leave it for a few days. If they're really, really super stiff, you can soak them in water and do the same thing. But these are really broken in, so we have a lot of stretch. The higher you go in your weights, the more protection you're going to want around your knees, and then that's going to require more revolutions, and then you can use these patterns to get fancy. We have some guys that do an X inside the knee, and then we do 2 straight revolutions around the kneecap. We have people kind of mix and match those patterns and form fit them to their style and what they need to get that next squat PR.
How often do you think, or how many attempts should somebody take in reps?
So if we're going heavy, we try to treat it like a meet. We say kind of get about 4 attempts in there, which would be like a last warm up at 3 attempts on a platform. If we got a big max effort day, I would say you can get up to as many as 5. If you're doing what would be like our 10 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 rep, that's going to occlude the blood flow. And then when you start getting too much above that 4 and 5 rep, as we've all felt, you can't really feel, your calves will start to go numb, and you can't feel your feet. And so then you run the risk of running into an injury there because you don't have any stability at the feet. And then that's a big problem there.
Yeah, most of the time, something that I've seen is you don't need, on a scale of 1 to 10, you don't need to have your reps at a 9 or 10 unless it's like an all-time world record. A 6 or an 8 is pretty noticeable difference, and does the job for most people, so something to consider.
Yeah, that's a great point too. So when you guys are messing with this stuff and you want to experiment, the more X's you do, or when you even start Xing, you're going to need a little bit more weight. So let's say we're squatting 315, we want to go with like a straight wrap, and then we might go 365, and then we'll try an X in front of the knee. And then let's say at 365 we notice a little bit of knee cave in. Well, then we can start to X on the inside of the knee and crank that wrap a little tighter. You want to scale it up. This is what happens all the time with beginners in the wraps, is they hate the wraps at first because some old school bro at the gym cranks a 10 out of 10 on them when they're in a warm-up weight, and then they hit the bottom and then they just fall. We've had it to where guys literally pick and go to sit back and just fall straight backwards. So you got to make sure that you are doing your diligence and picking the right weights with the right wraps. It's always good just to start light and work your way up. If you find a good working weight that you know you can hit depth with and kind of groove your reps, experiment with multiple patterns at the same weight, so then you have a good gauge of what works and what doesn't.